Hi, I'm Marcel, and you're watching The Pulse. Now, the primary function of this channel is to document my experiences taking NMN and a few other supplements and practicing a general wellness routine day to day. And I share that with you guys in hopes of inspiring others to also try the same things. One of the main supplements I take is NMN. And NMN is really revolutionary and does some very important things for the body. And there's a lot of great research that's been derived from studying NMN and boosting NAD levels. But there aren't really many great central sources of information to learn more about NMN. And that's what this video is for today, to give you a sort of a tutorial or primer about NMN, how it's made, and how it can potentially help you. Now, NMN is an abbreviation that stands for nicotinamide mononucleotide. NMN is a direct precursor of NAD+. NAD+ is an essential coenzyme required for all life and cellular functions. It's the most abundant molecule besides water in our bodies, and it's used by proteins called sirtuins to repair DNA, and it also promotes healthy mitochondria, which is the energy system inside your cells. Now, it's very important to keep in mind, you're going to hear the word downstream effects. Pretty much all of the downstream effects or health benefits or anti-aging benefits are derived from these two primary functions: repairing the DNA strands and promoting healthy mitochondria inside the cells, the energy system inside the cells. Another thing that can happen over time as these cells stop reproducing from these root causes is you can get senescent cells. And that's a topic really for another video and another day. I've made a video about fisetin where I discuss that, where you can kill off these zombie or senescent cells. But basically, we're going to focus today on promoting healthy cells. NAD levels decrease as we age, and reduced NAD levels have been linked to many age-related diseases, those downstream effects. Ingesting or taking NMN will result in higher NAD+ levels. This we know, this absolutely happens. There are different ways to produce NMN so that you can then take it and boost your NAD levels. The three ways are fermentation, where you take some foods and you ferment them, and then you would extract the NMN from that. But it's really messy and leaves a lot of byproduct and waste, so it's not a very efficient way to derive pure NMN. The main way is enzymatically, which is a biological enzyme, is used in a whole enzyme catalytic process. And I'm going to break down that process because the third way, which is completely chemically synthetically, is somewhat similar to the same process, but again, you're going to have byproduct and some waste of different chemicals if you do it that way. So the most efficient way right now that we have to produce high quality pure NMN is enzymatically. Now this involves starting with nicotinamide and riboside, or NR, then you add water. The next step in the process is a catalytic reaction called phosphorylation. Now that you have this blob of compounds, including NMN, you need to use hydrolyzation, basically water, which is then boiled, to separate these different compounds. Then you extract the NMN from that, you purify it, you concentrate it into a powdery form, you recrystallize it, and that's to stabilize it so that it can last long throughout the distribution process. It's dried, so you want to get rid of all of the water that's left from this whole process so that it doesn't begin to degrade. And then it's grinded down. This is also a very important step in the process I'm going to refer to later. Then, critically, QA and testing, ideally not just internal testing through what's called self-certification. Some of those certificates you see are done actually inside the factory. You also want to have third-party certification. So you want to look for a third-party off-site certification. When I got my NMN, now I take it from DoNotAge. There are other companies that also have third-party certifications that you can request. Make sure the date on that certification is recent because you want to know that it's aligned with the batch that you're actually receiving. I actually went a step further, took some NMN that I got from my source and took it to a lab here in Mainz, Germany, and had it tested. It was over 99% pure, as they claimed. Now, the story of NAD plus goes on for over 100 years. The origins date back to 1906, when researchers stumbled onto a factor enhancing fermentation of brewer's yeast. As a beer lover, and I don't drink nearly as much anymore that I'm living my healthy lifestyle, but I do appreciate that NAD Plus was discovered first, involving brewer's yeast of all things. One of those researchers, Arthur Hardin, won a Nobel Prize in 1929 for helping to unravel the mystery of fermentation. So we have over 100 years of science behind NAD+. Most of the discussion about the research of NMN, NR, niacin, boosting NAD levels is usually discussed from the past 20 years. That's when it's really become apparent that it's somehow involved in the aging process. However, in the 1930s, another Nobel laureate discovered NAD plays a central role in many biochemical reactions. So again, we're really talking about over a century of science culminating into where we are now, where we're actually taking NMN to knowingly boost our NAD levels. Now, those downstream effects I talked about earlier, I want to discuss some of those now, the benefits of taking NMN, boosting your NAD levels. Model organisms, which are animals such as mice, worms, or even yeast cells. David Sinclair at Harvard, who's done a lot of studying about NMN and its effects, and he's been very vocal about it, he tests a lot on yeast cells. That's one of his favorite model organisms because those cells react similarly to the way human cells do in experiments. And these model organisms lived longer when they were given NMN. They also had longer health spans, which probably caused that longer lifespan to begin with. They had improved energy levels, and these things have been replicated in human studies too that are ongoing right now. They had increased muscle strength, better cognitive function, less disease, again, the downstream impacts, less cancer, dementia, osteoporosis, diabetes, and even some neurological disorders. Pretty stunning stuff. Now, there are different ways, as I sort of mentioned, that you can boost NAD plus levels. You can take vitamin B in the form of niacin. However, it won't boost nearly as much as something like NR or NMN ultimately will. Niacin also causes a red flush of the face, but there are some health benefits to niacin. So those of you that want to take niacin, just keep in mind you're not going to boost your NAD levels with niacin. You're going to experience some other related health benefits. Now, NR is a direct precursor of NMN. There is some back and forth that goes on inside the body, but David Sinclair has stated many times that NR turns into NMN, turns into NAD+. You can also take NAD+ directly as an injection. There are more and more clinics popping up around the world where you can go in once a week. You can also self-administer these shots. You can order the NAD. Just be careful and order NAD+, not NADH, because the benefits have been studied regarding NAD+ and not NADH. There's a couple different kinds of NADs going on in the body. And for mostly what we understand is you want to take NAD+. Your body can also recycle NAD, so you can create more of it that way, and that is basically empowered by things like exercise, intermittent fasting, better sleep habits, eating better. These things can help you regenerate or recycle the NAD that's already in your body. But to boost it, you would have to, again, take some substance, take a supplement, or you can get it from some foods such as broccoli, cabbage, edamame, cucumbers, avocados, and tomatoes. Just keep in mind it would take 100 kilograms of broccoli to produce 250 milligrams of NMN. Now, there are other health benefits, and I do recommend that you eat these healthy vegetables because there are plant molecules that are inside these plants that are very healthy to you, and they can also help you recycle NAD. So there are definitely NAD-related benefits to eating these vegetables. You're just not going to boost your NAD in your blood and in your tissue as much as you would from taking something like NMN or even NR. The best way to boost NAD levels that we know of in your blood, besides directly getting an injection, is to take a supplement. Supplements, however, take NMN for example, it's sensitive to heat, light, and water. So you want to make sure that it's stored properly, that it's distributed properly, that it's fresh when it gets to you. You don't want to buy too much of it at once because it's just going to go bad inside your cabinet or inside your refrigerator, but it does take a long period of time. That NMN that you buy should be good for at least a year, and they've done studies in labs where they've tested this. The purity level, if it's not kept around moisture, it's going to stay okay, or excessive heat. Now, it is safe to consume NMN. Several grams have been tested in human clinical trials, and at least 2 grams and even more have been tested. It is healthy to consume it. There are different ways to consume NMN, one being a gastroprotected capsule. It's a very common way you get these capsules. The advantages to this are if you're susceptible to any upset stomach, then you could take the capsule. It will sort of bypass most of the stomach process there, and you won't get the upset stomach. You'll still get the benefits of the NMN. Now, I take pure powder form sublingually under the tongue, but it's important to also understand that the powder can be very finely grinded. We mentioned that grinding process, or it may be more coarse. They didn't grind it that additional amount of times, and the coarse NMN powder is meant to be dissolved in water. It's not a specific sublingual powder. The one that I take from DoNotAge is very fine, dissolves in a few seconds. If you get the coarse one, you will know it because you'll be walking around with this clump of NMN under your tongue for 5 to 10 minutes, and it's kind of frustrating and annoying, and you can't really talk with it in your mouth. So very important to know that you're getting a very finely grinded powder. There is another form called liposomal or liposomes, and that's a valid form. Liposomes are used in many pharmaceuticals to actually bypass not only the gastrointestines, but the liver, so that you don't damage them. Some drugs that are very strong are given liposomally so that you can avoid any upset stomach or damage to the liver. Is it important for NMN? Well, it could be, but keep in mind that your body has a natural liposomal process. The liposomal process is how it's transferred through the membrane of the cell and gets inside the cell. So it could make it a little easier to take it. If you're getting an upset stomach from either the capsule or the powder, maybe try the liposomal. There's more processing involved in making liposomes, so keep in mind you're not getting potentially as pure an NMN. But I'm not boo-hooing it. I'm not discounting liposomes. I may talk more about them in the future, actually, because it is a valid form of taking medications and supplements, dietary supplements in this case. However, also important to understand that as soon as you ingest NMN, however you take it, it starts to get into the bloodstream within 15 minutes. Your NAD levels start going up immediately, and then they keep increasing for several hours. That effect usually lasts for about a week. So you could take NMN less often if you desire. It's still going to be in your bloodstream. I did stop taking it twice for 5 days, and each day I had a little bit less energy, so I wasn't feeling as many effects. However, sometimes I'll skip a day. If I'm out traveling, I won't take it at all, and I still feel great. So there is some buildup, some accumulation, and there may be some argument for pulsing NMN maybe every other day, or any other supplements in general. Again, a topic we'll talk maybe more about later. So there's your primer on NMN. I thank you for watching. There's a link in the description with a discount code to the NMN that I take from DoNotAge, as I mentioned, and I wish you luck on your journey.